Our first guest tonight is one of those leading the fight against the Department of Justice and FBI efforts to undermine the constitutional authority of Congress in its oversight responsibilities. Joining us tonight is Congressman Jim Jordan. He serves as a member of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees. He's also a member of the influential House Freedom Caucus. And Congressman, great to have you here. It appears you have solved part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
The Department of Justice will respond to threats of contempt citations and impeachment as delivered by Chairman Nunes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow, if in fact they get to see the documents that Chairman Nunes has been requesting. It sounds like this is at least a step in the right direction, but it doesn't change the pattern and the facts that we have seen for the last several months, which is delay, take your good old time, tell you can't see something, redact information. It's always like pulling teeth with these guys, and that's what's so frustrating. So we'll wait and see, but at least the early indications are maybe we're moving something in the right direction.
And there is some reporting that the White House agreed with the Department of Justice in concerns about methods and sources being revealed in this one instance, or at least it appears to be one instance. Well, but that is the same answer they always proffer.
No, look, take the Comey memos, for example. Well, right. You can't see those, you can't see those. We get them and we find out there was nothing really classified in there. So this is the pattern DOJ has, and it's always to run out the clock. They have told us just what we're supposed to be looking at, or what we've asked to look at in the House Judiciary Committee. It's approximately 46,000 documents we're supposed to see. To date, we've received about 9,000 at the over 7 months. Yeah. At that pace, we'll be well into President Trump's second term before we get the information that we are entitled to see as a separate and equal branch of government.
Well, speaking of those documents, the scope memo among them, the Department of Justice rejecting, rejecting your demand to produce the Rosenstein memo, the August 2nd memo, which was after the fact justification for whatever had transpired between then and the outset of the special counsel on May 17th.
Yeah, Lou, I think this is real important. Mr. Meadows and I sent a letter to the Justice Department on April 9th. Right. We got a response back asking to see this addendum to the scope of the special counsel's investigation into the President of the United States. We got the response back last Tuesday. 3 days later, which is what I found so interesting, the federal judge said he wants to see that same document. So now what you have is two branches of government telling the Justice Department, the executive branch, we want to see the scope of the document, or that scope document, and how that expands, adapts, changes the original memo that Mr. Rosenstein sent to Bob Mueller. We think it's important. The American people, Lou, have a right to know the parameters surrounding an investigation into the president they elected. That's why it's important we see that information.
How did this, I don't want to get into the history of this thing, but when you look at what the Justice Department is doing, led by Rosenstein and a slumbering Jeff Sessions, who purportedly is the Attorney General still, and a crew of the most corrupt officials in Department of Justice history, and those are just the ones we know about. How can at this point, have you said to the President of the United States, or he to you, that this is the time to end this? It's time for transparency. It's time for sunlight and openness, and the hell with these corrupt
Yeah,
people.
It is definitely time for transparency. The American people have a right to get to the information, to answer the questions that they rightfully have. I said earlier today on radio, it's time for the President of the United States to tell the Justice Department, give Congress what it's asking for, so the American people can get answers to these questions. Last time I checked, these folks at the Justice Department who are making it so difficult to get stuff we as a separate and equal branch of government are entitled to see, none of these individuals were ever on a ballot. None of them were ever elected by the American people, and yet somehow they think that they have the right to say, nope, Congress can't get the information that we need to get answers to important questions about the President of the United States.
The stench of the Department of Justice, the upper echelons, the stench of their corruption, and the awesome hubris with which they, with impunity, deny the Constitution and the congressional responsibility, not just the authority, the responsibility of Congress to provide oversight is stunning.
Yeah, it sure is. And it's always so hard to get information, and then they actually attempt to hide information. Why did they try to redact the information, hide the information between in a text message between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok that talked about the relationship Peter Strzok had with one of the FISA judges and the judge that heard Michael Flynn's case? Why was that redacted? Why did they try to hide it from Congress? Why didn't they tell Congress that Daniel Richman, the guy Jim Comey, leaked information through to the New York Times? Why didn't they tell us that he was a special government employee at the FBI? Why don't we know? We have to dig and hunt and persuade finally for them to give us information, to give us documents, to get those answers. Why is it always so difficult? That's what we want to know, particularly when, as you point out, it is our constitutional role to provide oversight of the executive branch.
Yeah, and you serve on judiciary and oversight, but there is also great responsibility, in my judgment, that belongs on the shoulders of the Speaker of the House, who says things like this. Ryan says Mueller, Rosenstein should be allowed to do their jobs, when in point of fact, they're not doing their jobs, and they're not doing it the American way. As a matter of fact, I can't even begin to understand why Ryan and Majority Leader McConnell do not stand up with the President of the United States and say, end this nonsense, because every act of obvious, in my opinion, criminality and just overarching abuse of power is on the part of the investigators, the Justice Department, the FBI, and their leaders.
Yeah, like how about the fact today that the New York Times was able to see Michael Cohen's personal documents? How did they get that? How did that happen? So you're exactly right. Mr. Rosenstein can do his job, but we in Congress have a job to do as well, and we need the information to do that job. So get us that information, and if you won't, we will pursue every avenue we can to persuade you to give us that information.
We know the Inspector General at the Justice Department is supposed to be producing a very important report on the corruption in that institution. Do you have any sense? Have you got any whiff of a possible date or possible week in which that just might be released to the public?
Well, it was supposed to be April. Now it was supposed to be first week of May. Now people are talking about it's likely to happen right before Memorial Day. I don't know. I mean, I can hazard a guess and say I think it'll happen before Memorial Day, but I do not know. What I do know is what we have seen thus far relative to Andrew McCabe, I think was interesting and obviously showed that Mr. McCabe lied several times. And now there's a criminal referral for Mr. McCabe. Right. So, look, I want it to come as quickly as possible, but I think most importantly is to remember none of these folks at the Department of Justice ever had their name on a ballot, ever stood in front of the people, were ever elected to a position. We are, and we have a right to get that information so we can get answers to the American people.
Without a single solitary question whatsoever.